Can a nation at Europe's frontier navigate its democratic ambitions amid rising authoritarian influences? Gap. The European Union has delivered a stark ultimatum to Georgia: uphold democratic principles or face sanctions. Gap. This conflict transcends politics. It's a battle for the nation's identity, caught between Russia's influence and Europe's promise. Gap. Welcome to Milwaukee Insights, where we unravel the world's most pressing stories. Gap. Like, share, and subscribe to stay informed on global events that shape our world. Since the fall of the Soviet Union, Georgia has faced a tumultuous journey toward establishing a stable democracy. Gap. Tbilisi's aspirations for EU membership symbolize a quest for modernization and a break from Moscow's shadow. Gap. The controversial foreign agent law, enacted in early 2024, mandates organizations receiving foreign funds to register as foreign agents, mirroring Russia's 2012 law aimed at stifling dissent. Gap. This sparked widespread civil society protests, with citizens arguing the law threatens the very freedoms that underpin democracy. Gap. The streets of Tbilisi became a battleground, with protesters defiantly holding banners that read, "No to Putin's law." Gap. Grassroots movements have surged as activists and communities rally against what they see as anti-democratic government actions. On October 4, 2024, EU officials issued a stark warning to Georgia: abandon democratic principles and face severe sanctions that could derail its EU membership dreams. Gap. EU's High Representative Josep Borrell declared, "Democracy is non-negotiable for any nation aspiring to join the EU." Gap. The looming sanctions could cripple Georgia's economy, deter foreign investments, and target officials linked to authoritarian practices. Gap. Georgia risks losing access to the EU's lucrative trade privileges and essential financial aid. Gap. In a coordinated move, the US has already suspended parts of its strategic partnership with Georgia, signaling a united Western front against any authoritarian shift. Georgia's controversial foreign agent law has sparked intense debate, drawing stark comparisons to Kremlin tactics. Gap. This raises alarms about Moscow's influence over Tbilisi, the looming threat of Georgia drifting into Russia's sphere if Western alliances weaken. The EU and US see Georgia as a pivotal buffer between Russia and Europe, with potential ripple effects on other Eastern European nations, such as Moldova and Ukraine. The EU's firm stance underscores its broader mission to defend democratic values in its vicinity, especially as authoritarianism gains momentum worldwide. Sanctions could severely impact Georgia's tourism, agriculture, and tech sectors, vital pillars of its economy. The potential decline in foreign investment could worsen unemployment and poverty. A growing rift between pro-Western opposition parties and the ruling Georgian Dream Party. Rising tensions as opposition leaders push for snap elections to restore democratic faith. Grassroots movements are gaining momentum, with citizens demanding accountability and transparency. Will sanctions galvanize support for democracy or deepen resentment against perceived Western interference? The effectiveness of sanctions in curbing authoritarian regimes remains a contentious issue. Gap. Will Georgia's government turn eastward to sidestep EU pressure? Gap. Its strategic location and deep-rooted ties with Russia add layers of complexity to its stance against Moscow's influence. Gap. Georgia teeters between authoritarian tendencies and the dream of a European future. The undeniable influence of protests in shaping Georgia's political landscape. Gap. Grassroots movements as the driving force behind Georgia's democratic ambitions. Gap. The EU's strategic mix of incentives and warnings. Gap. Proposals for meaningful dialogue with Georgian leaders. Gap. Envisioning a future where Georgia integrates into the EU while maintaining its sovereignty. Gap. The critical need for balanced leadership to manage both internal and external challenges. Georgia stands at a critical juncture in its history. Gap. Will it choose the path of democracy and European integration, or will it be swayed by forces pushing it towards authoritarianism? Gap. The stakes are immense for Georgia, the EU, and the future of global democracy. Gap. Thank you for tuning into Milwaukee Insights. Gap. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to stay informed on global events shaping our world. Gap. Join the conversation in the comments below.